Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the Digestible Podcast, where we give you all the health and wellness information you need in an amount of time that your busy day can handle. And we make it easily digestible. Today, we have kind of a celebrity on,
Yes.
A celebrity in the documentary world. We have Marty Travis of the documentary Sustainable. And if you have not heard of the documentary and you've not seen the documentary, we highly, highly recommend you watch it to understand more of what some of the things are that we're talking about on this podcast when we talk about our food systems. Missy, why don't you tell us a little bit about Marty?
Sure, absolutely. So Marty Travis is a partner at Spence Farm, co-owned and operated by Marty Travis and his son, Will. A former furniture maker who inherited the old family farm, decided to return to farming, but saw the opportunity for true sustainability. A thriving sustainable business model grew from the ground up, from the hard work Marty and his family put into the soil, the livestock, and the surrounding acreage, into the community of buyers he fostered with kindness, amazing products, and dedicated work. They now lead a cooperative group of farmers, and currently they are serving dozens of restaurants and over 1,000 families. This network of farmers is leading the way to change in the landscape around food.
And we're so excited to have him here today. Enjoy the episode.
Hi, Marty. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Melissa, Stacy, it's good to be here. Thank you.
We're so excited you're here. We're really excited to talk about what you're doing, all the things you're doing. But first, we wanted to start with, you decided to shift from furniture making to running a family farm, but you didn't just decide to farm conventionally. You decided to change how the land had been farmed. And Stacy and I are very curious to know, what was your aha moment that made you realize this was the path you wanted to take?
Oh, well, that moment was really somewhat started when my wife Chris asked, so you've been building furniture for all these years. What would happen if a doctor told you you couldn't do that, but you're still perfectly healthy? What would you do? And I said, well, we have this cute little farm here that's been in our family. We should probably figure out to do something with it. We realized, this is over 20 years ago now, that a lot of young people were leaving our community, going off, farm community, farm families, farm kids, going off, and because their parents and grandparents were saying that there's not enough land here for you to make a living too. Even though it might be 1,000, 2,000, 8,000 acres, for some reason, you know what I'm saying. So we started figuring ways that we could basically, on our farm of 160 acres, create opportunities that were different than our neighbors' opportunities. And so we were introduced to a group of chefs in Chicago, and at the end of that meeting, it was like, well, what all can you do? What else can you do? And so we came back to our community, and a lot of these families, we encouraged them to give some space, some ground, some land, some soil for their kids. At the end of a year or two, we had 25 farms, and the majority of the farmers were under the age of 18. So obviously they couldn't haul their stuff to Chicago. And we had some 14-year-olds making $20,000 a year on their garden.
Wow.
And
that beats babysitting money.
Yeah. And it was just during the summer. So we just kept doing the rinse and repeat thing. And more farmers joined in to where now we have like 125 farms. And
Wow.
like 300 and some accounts over the course of a year. And it's grown into a thing.
And how you farm, though, is different than maybe the conventional farmers or the parents of some of these kids The way that, because the chefs were looking for something different other than just maybe specific types of ingredients. How you farm is different.
Okay.
What do you do that's different?
We start with understanding what the soil is and what it's lacking. And we work at building soil. We work at organic products, organic soil nutrition, and then plant nutrition, all organic, trying to understand what shortfalls we are up against if we're having disease or pest, insect pressure. That's a reflection of nutrients, of not having full immunity, not having full nutrition in our crops or in our soil or actually in our own selves. And so we look at it from the standpoint of trying to regenerate soil, regenerate the land, our farms, our own health, and our community's health. And it served us very well. And it's folks like all the consumers that are looking for something better than what they can get at a big box grocery store. And we're trying to create that relationship that we understand where our food is coming from and how it's being raised.
And so that's why you work with, along with these restaurants, you work with community organizations, you work with companies like Pete's, that we just interviewed Pete, and it's bringing food to people who live close. So people are really close to where you are producing the food, right? Mostly.
That's right.
That's right?
Exactly.
Okay.
No, it is. And it's important that, for years and years and years, I know there's a better choice that can be made. And we may not always have access to that better choice that we know can be made, right?
Right.
And so part of what I'm trying to do is to create that access point for consumers, for chefs, for schools, for nursing homes, food banks, all of that, and even healthcare providers now.
Speaking of healthcare providers, could you talk to us a little bit about, and I think you had a great story that you've told about how you brought healthcare providers onto your farm and you showed them what was going on your farm. Can you tell us a little bit about that story? I love that story.
Sure.
Me too.
Sure. Yeah. So we're now involved in a food as medicine program with a couple different healthcare providers.
Love it.
Looking at diabetes, hypertension, cancer, and ways to boost nutrition for those folks to help support their treatment or their nutritional support going into that. But several years ago, we had a group of about 35 or 40 healthcare providers at the farm. They were there to learn about where their food might come from. And I quizzed them about what a calcium deficiency looks like in middle-aged to older age women. And so they began to talk about, well, it's bone strength or it's all of these kinds of things. And I then began to explain to them what it looks like in plants.
What does it look like in plants?
If you don't have strong calcium availability, the plants grow long and leggy instead of short and stocky.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And if they're short and stocky, they can hold more weight. They can carry more fruit. If we and calcium is really necessary early on in the growth cycle of a plant because it's not a very mobile nutrient. So as that plant grows, you want to have that calcium available because it doesn't have enough cell wall strength. And so
interesting.
As we begin to look at plant health, many instances, it begins to create awareness of our own health then. And if we don't consume plants or animal byproducts, animal products that don't have full nutrition, full nutrient density, there's no way we're going to get that out of our food.
Right.
So I'm trying to teach our farmers about the whole ecosystem and continue us to learn as much as we can about how we can best supply the best product. That's a long-winded way to tell you that it matters where it's grown and how it's grown.
So what does a regenerative farm look like versus a conventional farm? Like, what would the differences be that we would see?
A regenerative farm, and I'm not making any judgment calls here. And this is what I'm sharing is my truth and my experience, okay? And if somebody else has a different experience, that's cool too. But a regenerative farm is going to be looking at the whole ecology of the farm. You more than likely are not going to have animals in confinement. You're going to have animals on pasture, rotationally grazed so that you're not, putting animals on a dirt lot necessarily. You're going to potentially have a whole different ecosystem of bugs, happy bugs, good bugs. You're going to have an ecosystem of different varieties, different species of birds. The birds on our farm, the varieties of bluebirds and blue jays and cardinals and bobolinks and killdeer and all of these other birds are much different than a neighbor's farm down the road that has a confinement setting without any pasture, and their bird species are more like starlings, black grackles, blackbirds, cowbirds, and they're not. It's just not the same.
That's interesting.
And the smells are different, right?
I'm sure.
If you've got animals on pasture, that's different than the smells emanating from animals in confinement.
For sure.
And many times, I want to say this: we were part of a program of 1,000 farms through a foundation called ECDYSIS, ECDYSIS, I think. They did a visit to 1,000 farms all over the country. And one of their measurings was laughter on regenerative farms. Is that different than it is on other farms?
Interesting.
And believe it or not, it is different. It shows in the data. They heard more laughter on a regenerative farm than they heard on more of a conventional farm.
Do you think that also has to do with the fact that the conventional farms use so much more like technology and equipment?
It could be. It could be a reflection that we're all just out of our mind and we just laugh all day too.
I don't think so. No. I don't think so. I think you guys are probably much happier. But
it's the experience, and it revolves again around to what is the experience that we want to have for ourselves, for our children, for our grandkids, for people that visit the farm. Do we allow visitors on the farm even? And
do you?
So we do. Yeah, we do. But I know a lot of our conventional guys do not want folks there. It's just different. It's not right or wrong. It's just a different experience. And that's what I'm trying to offer our customers.
So how do we get food like yours in the hands of everybody across the country? Like, how does this movement keep growing so that everyone can access this type of food?
Stacy, we need more farmers. We're not going to do it with just a handful of farmers in each state. We need farmers in every community to rebuild not just the health of the community as far as our personal health, but also the financial health, the economic development, our kids, giving them opportunities and business sense, and just creating community, neighbors, working together, supporting each other. And so I get the good fortune of sharing these kinds of visions with folks around the country, and not just sharing the what ifs, but how do we do that? How do we bring farmers to the table? How do we create markets for their products? How do we create an understanding within a community why it matters that you get your apples from your neighbor as opposed to from South America?
Right.
So you've built a community. You've built quite a community. You've built a community of farmers. You have a lot of buyers. What
Yes.
is your secret? What's the magic in what you're doing?
Our first rule is we only work with nice people.
It's a good rule.
It's a great rule. And we think of trying to be understanding before we're understood. So I want to understand from you as a customer, what are you looking for? What's the experience that you're trying to have for yourself, your family, your community? What is it? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And then a lot of times I'll ask, so in order to get to that place, what do you need to learn? And then what are you willing to contribute toward that experience?
Yeah.
That tends to bring us all together, especially if we can have a group meeting to talk about that. And we realize we're not so different than everybody else in the room. And if you're able to contribute X and somebody else is able to contribute Y, but that makes the experience even better, then we feel like we're creating a community again. Does that make sense?
Yes. I like
Yes.
that. Yeah. Way of thinking.
How hard or easy is it to engage conventional farmers in the conversation, and how quickly do they convert over? It takes a while, right?
It does. I'm about to have a presentation in about a month with a group of conventional farmers that live in Chicago but evidently have farmland outside the city, all the way down downstate. Most of them are in their 70s and 80s, trying to understand how they're going to leave their farm, their land, to the next generation and preserve it. This is a really long conversation that I'll have with them for sure. But it's those three questions again. What's the experience that they're trying to leave? What do they need to learn in order to make their farms more sustainable, more regenerative? And what are they willing to contribute to making that happen? But sustainability is ultimately an ethical issue. There's no financial reason for someone of a past generation to do something for someone in a future generation financially, other than it's the right thing to do. And so we owe a debt to those that came before us that can only be paid by paying it forward. So with my grandkids being the 9th generation on our farm, the farm being in our family in a couple more years, 200 years.
Wow.
For my grandkids to have an opportunity on that farm, I need to recognize that my presence on that farm was afforded me by my ancestors too. And so as we think about conventional farms, do we care enough to leave a legacy that revolves around not just the land, but those who work the land and those who benefit and eat from the land? And what does that look like?
Well, and well, I love that. And I was going to say the way that conventional farms work is they're extractive. And I know that's something that you're a big believer in, is the idea of, instead of not feeding the soil, of just pulling things from it and being extractive, which is using fertilizers and pesticides, which kills the life in the soil. By regenerating the soil and the life in the soil, you're able to make it sustainable for the future. But it also is just makes sense, right? That it can make business sense if you do it right. But the change is what's hard. It's not that it's
not a judgment. Again, those folks grew up in a period of time that was the best knowledge, the freshest, most whatever technology advanced that was coming at that point. And
right.
You're right, Missy, it was extractive. It is extractive. But we forget that we're part of an ecosystem. We're not here to rule it. We're here to play our part in being, farming used to be stewardship. And we think about, how do we steward the land? How do we steward our crops and those kinds of things? Being a part involved in that. What
right.
is sad that I see in our community, and we see it in farming communities, is the rate of disease, whether it be cancers or diabetes or Parkinson's and all of these metabolic diseases. It's heartbreaking, but much of it is a direct relationship to what our food is, what the environment is that we're in, and all of those things. And so I just want to do the best I can to bring forward a better experience for our communities and for our families.
That's wonderful.
That's great.
Thank you.
You had a good story about, I think it was someone, because we talked about how the food really is local, right? It has to be pretty local. But you had talked to, I think maybe a lemon grower.
Yes.
Is it a lemon grower?
Yeah.
That you were trying to help. Tell us about that.
So the vast majority of our farmers are within Illinois, Kentucky, Michigan, Wisconsin, etc. But during COVID, we were looking for a ray of sunshine. All of us were. And it was in, late winter. Everybody needed some sun. So I started thinking about citrus and started looking in Florida. The Florida citrus, it's 96% gone. They've got disease and poor soil conditions, and many of those groves are just gone. Not all, but
That's
many.
terrible.
Yeah. So I called the organic certifier in Southern California, told her who I was, and she said, "Oh, I know who you are." She says, "Here's the farm that you need."
Because you're famous.
I guess. I don't know. And so I called this particular gentleman, younger, multi-generational farmer, and I said, "This is who I am. This is what I'm looking for. Tell me, what you do, and tell me your story." He said, "I'm about to lose my farm." He said, "If I keep selling my lemons to the wholesaler here at 9 cents a pound, 0.09, 9 cents, he says,
terrible.
It's going to be gone." And I said, and he's organic, and he's got all this amazing stuff. And I said, "So what price do you really need in order to make this work?" And he says, "At least 90 cents a pound." I said, "All right, what if we were able to sell your product at $1.90? Would that be helpful?" He said, "Well, that would be amazing." So I started getting citrus from him. 5 years on, about every other week, he sends me citrus. While it's not local, you and I can't grow lemons and limes and passion fruit and oranges and pomegranates and persimmons and all of that here. But he harvests about 40 cases on a Monday, ships them on Tuesday, we get them on Thursday and can begin distributing. And it's amazing citrus.
That's awesome.
And
Am I going to get some of that citrus?
Yes.
Is that going to come in any of my boxes from Pete? Okay,
Yes.
so I want some.
That's wonderful.
And not
so
only that,
yeah.
he's planting more trees now. So he
Oh,
sees
that's
a
great.
future.
So you saved his farm.
You
helped
did.
save his
You
farm.
helped save his farm.
I
That's
helped him.
amazing.
wonderful.
You bet.
That's wonderful.
You bet.
That's really special.
Right. This is more about that hub and spoke model that Pete talks about, it being so important to have things, removing the giant industrial sized, efficiency machine that gives farmers so few cents on the dollar of
Right,
what's
the grocery
spent
store
at the grocery
machine.
store.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Because
it's
it's
one,
what's keeping our farmers from thriving.
Yeah,
it's one of the
many
things.
times, our farmers are getting like 12 cents a dollar on the dollar. Our farmers get 78 cents on that dollar.
That's great.
And
That's
we
really
just, I'm a pretty fierce advocate for farmers, and just really, really want them to do well. And if they're doing well, their community is doing well, and we're doing well.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Wonderful.
important. I'd also love to hear really quickly the story of the chefs. How did these very well-known chefs come to find you, Marty, and ask you to grow all these really cool things for their 5-star restaurants in downtown Chicago?
One of which is
I
Rick
think that's-
Bayless of Frontera
Yeah,
Grill.
yeah. So tell us
Frontera.
that story. That's a great one.
So, and it keeps happening. I just there, and I'll get to that follow on in a second. So, at the very beginning, we were invited to a chef's collaborative meeting in Chicago, and we sat in the room with, like, I would say there were 6 or 8 of these really, top-notch, first-class chefs. Rick was one, Paul Kahn, Jason Hamill, and it just continued. And of course, they all said yes. Bring us as soon as you harvest them. Bring them. Word of mouth kept going and still goes today. And we still have all of those original chefs that I just named. They are still our weekly customers 20 years on.
Amazing.
Wow.
Many of them have been to the farm, supported us, supported our farmers, and many of them presently. So we're in the midst of this SNAP challenge, right? This food
Food stamps.
issues, the food stamp thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so 2 weeks ago, I put a note out to our chef community asking, I said, I've been thinking about this. Is there a way that we can support these families downstate and in Chicago? We can't support everybody, but if we had finances to support buying this food from our farmers, we would get it distributed to some of these communities. I have numerous chefs. It's gone across the country. We're getting, donations from a lot of folks. But 2 of the largest restaurant groups in the city have committed to every week through the end of the year with a donation off of their menu so that diners can go in, choose the SNAP challenge meal, and there's a donation that each of those restaurants will make, or diners can make an additional contribution at the end of the meal. And I've got one of the restaurant groups that's going to match those dollars also,
It's so nice.
up to a certain threshold. So I'm trying to basically capture as close to $20,000 a week as I can over the next 6-8 weeks, and then get that distributed in Chicago and downstate to some of these needy families.
That's really wonderful.
So I'm sorry,
Chefs?
Yes, but the The chefs that you're working with,
Yes.
are putting on their menus like a SNAP challenge, like a dish on their menu, and if they order that dish, some of that money goes to this program, but they can also donate in addition to that.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
That's wonderful. What a way to get the word out. That's great. Well, is there a link you can give us, Marty?
Yep. I will
website?
absolutely provide you that. You betcha.
Okay.
You bet.
Great. So that our listeners, if they want to help support the SNAP recipients while everything's frozen and they could be in need,
Yeah. And
that
then
would be wonderful.
As farmers are donating product also, because that's part of the. And then I've got one other piece. During the last 2 years, we provided food through a state-funded program to needy families. One of those recipients in the last few days wrote a note and said, hey, because of that program, I'm no longer food insecure, and you got me through that, and so now I want to make a donation to help another family through that too.
That's a nice story.
That's nice. Yeah.
That's great.
That's the power of the community that we're talking about.
It's amazing. Well, we loved it.
It sounds like a very special community.
Yes.
Oh, it is.
It does.
You bet.
I'd hate to shift to this, but Stacey and I have been very excited to hear about. We both saw your documentary. It's a documentary that you were sort of front and center on, and we'd love to hear about. Give us sort of a synopsis of the documentary, and maybe talk a little bit about like how you got involved in that.
Out of the blue one day, we got a call from this person, and they said, could we come visit your farm? We're going to be down in central Illinois. Could we come visit? And I said, sure. So they stopped, and they were a filmmaker, and we've had other filmmakers and such at the farm doing all kinds of shots. But we connected really, really well. And his name is Matt Wexler, and his wife, Annie. They were looking to do a documentary on food and sustainability and all of this. That initial meeting ended up lasting that project for the next almost 3 years. They filmed at our farm over 300 hours.
Wow.
So there's tons of B-roll out there somewhere.
Right.
But we began to, I think, as we began to talk and work our way through the storytelling, they captured the seasons at our farm and captured the why of what we do. And Matt, we've become really good friends, as you would imagine, but during COVID, we went from 40, 50 restaurants to 3 restaurants the next week. But we also turned it around and ended up with 240 individuals that we were providing food to. And they were picking it up at 3 different locations in the city. Matt was picking up food for his family. And since we had spent so much time together, he said, this is going to kill you. He says, you can't keep doing this. And so we began to brainstorm, and he ended up creating an online grocery store with a curbside pickup. And he's still a filmmaker, but he's also the general manager at Wild Onion Market now, the Wild Onion Market Co-op in Rogers Park. We have this synergy. We have this relationship around food and each other and the land. And he's trying his best to get good food to the community as well. And we love that partnership.
That's great. Well, for our listeners, the documentary is called Sustainable, and you can watch it on YouTube, right? And I think a lot of
Prime.
And Prime.
and
Amazon
And
Prime,
Apple
yeah, I think that.
and
yeah,
Apple TV.
and Apple TV.
Yeah, it's really great, and it features
It's worth watching.
Marty, and Rick Bayless is on there, and Marty Bittman, who has written he's a journalist, has written a lot of books on food, and
Yep.
has cookbooks and recipes and things like that. And so it's a great story. But what Marty, I hear this common theme in your life. It's not just about how you farm, but it's how you relate to people. It's about connecting and building community. And I think it's such a beautiful story. So thank you for what you're doing. I think it's wonderful.
Well, thanks for amplifying it. This is huge.
Absolutely. It's so important. And I think that maybe now, just when people hear this, they'll think about when they go out to eat at some of the nice restaurants that we have access to, because I'm in the suburbs of Chicago. Like when you go out for that really nice meal, like they're eating your food. Those chefs have worked really hard to create those menus. And that's why the food tastes so good and you can't replicate it.
Right. Yeah. It's always great when the chef can tell you what farm the food comes from, what farms they get their food from.
And we as consumers should be asking that, right?
Yeah.
And we can drive more of that to happen. That's how we get more farmers, is by creating more demand.
Yeah.
And so among the many restaurants in Chicago, the one-off hospitality, Publican Bread, all of those folks, and then the Boca Group, places like Boca and Sierra, Swift and Sons, Alavita, Zarella, Chicago Athletic Association. They've got 26 restaurants. So,
oh, wow.
They are super supportive of us and the farms, and now they're trying to support with their goodwill the community at large too.
That's amazing.
So, Marty, we like to ask all of our guests the same two questions at the end of our discussion. The first one is, if you could give our listeners one action item, a takeaway that they can go and do after listening to our conversation today, what would you have them do? What would it be?
Make one choice. And whatever that choice is, give it time and give it energy. If you want to change something, give it time and give it energy, and enjoy that experience. Being adaptable, making a choice, that's important.
That's great. That's great. So if you want to source your food from different places, put in the time and the energy to figure out what works best for you, what's available in your area, and just give it time and make it so it works for you.
Yes, exactly.
I like that. Give it time and give it energy. Thank you for that. The second question that we like to ask is, here at the Digestible Podcast, we like to say, don't panic, just pivot. Is there a small change or a pivot that you've made in your life that you're proud of that you would share with us today?
The thing that I share in my brain and with other people's brains is practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes progress. And when you get frustrated that things aren't perfect, just remember, keep practicing, because that's going to make progress to get to where you want to be.
That's great. Thank you for that wisdom. That's great.
Yeah. Marty, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
We appreciate what you're doing. And
you guys, what you're doing is filling the part that drives your passion, right? This is a piece that not all of us can do. And for you to be these storytellers, to be these enablers, there's initiators, enablers, and doers. And what I feel like you are doing is a combination of all of that. But more than anything, you're enabling more folks to understand the concepts that you're sharing with them. And that's so, so important. And I'm grateful to get to spend this time. I'm grateful that you get to amplify our farmers. And that's really awesome.
We're so happy to do it. Thank you for listening to the Digestible Podcast with today's guest, Marty Travis of Spence Farm. If you're interested in learning more about Marty and his son Will's family farm, or learn about their Down at the Farm program, you can visit their website at spence-farm.com. And if you're interested in supporting the food program that provides free food to underserved communities, created especially to fill the gap that the canceled SNAP funding has created, you can donate at thinkgeneration.com/donate. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share us with others. It's the best compliment you can give us. If you have questions or comments, feel free to email us at info@digestiblestrategies.com. As always, we look forward to hearing from you, and remember, don't panic, just pivot. The content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. We are not medical professionals, and the views expressed here are not intended to diagnose, treat, or cure any health conditions. Always consult with a qualified healthcare provider before making any health-related decisions.